Hey there, gang. Patrick King here, and I want to thank you for tuning in to episode number 6 of my audio broadcast, Talking About Horses. In these broadcasts, I try to bring you some of the best riders, horsemen, trainers, and thought leaders in the horse industry for tips, insights, and stories. You can listen at home, at work, in the car. Heck, you can even listen in the saddle, either through Facebook, YouTube, or by downloading the podcast from the iTunes store. Today, I'm excited to bring to you Miss Belinda Trussell from Ontario, Canada. Belinda is one of the world's shining stars, the dressage world's shining stars, and she's represented Canada in the World Cup, the World Equestrian Games, the Pan Am Games, at the Olympics in Athens, Greece in 2004, and again in Rio in 2016. That's pretty exciting. Belinda, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And did I miss anything in that introduction there? I mean, that's kind of a lot right there. But was there anything that I might have missed?
No, I think you got everything. There was one European Championship, but I don't know if you mentioned that. But yeah, when you hear all that, I've done a lot so far.
Well,
yeah.
And, it's so funny because I met you up in Canada, up in Alberta at the main event, and you were just so friendly and chatty, and that's what kind of got me, interested in your work and what you're doing, and you were trying out, hoping to get into the Olympics. I believe you had, one competition yet that you were needing scores from?
Yes, I had done the Florida season, which had gone very well, and there were 2 more competitions in Ontario, but I didn't know if I needed both, and turns out I only needed one. I had a really great show in Ottawa, and it really secured that Anton, my horse, was the number 1 slot for Canada, and it was very likely I was making the team, so I could actually opt out of the second competition. So I was right in the middle of all that when we met.
Yeah, so you were right at that, and I know you were sharing with us, that you were preparing for that and what you were doing, and I won't lie, I just thought, wow, this gal, she's awesome. She's so down to earth. She's so easy to talk to, and so we'd kind of communicated back and forth through email and through Facebook a couple times. And I won't even lie, it wasn't until sitting down preparing to do this broadcast that I looked at your biography on your Facebook page, and I thought, wow, she's even more interesting than I even thought.
It's funny, I read my biography and what I've accomplished, and it doesn't even feel like that. I just feel like, oh yeah, here I am, a regular rider, and there's the World Championships next year, and that's my next goal, and I'm thinking about that, and I don't even think about all these teams until I actually see it in print, what I've done.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and I think that's a big part of what makes you so down to earth and so approachable. You're real. You're not caught up in the ego of, or the potential ego of all of your accomplishments, and I really love that, and I got the opportunity to watch a bit of your demonstrations up at the main event, and what I really liked was how much you were just keeping the horses at the forefront of it all. There were some tweaks that you were making to the riders and some things you were offering for them to do, but the biggest thing that I noticed was that you kept it fair, you kept it quiet, you kept it, very incremental so that the horses could really succeed with what you were offering to them. So I commend you for that, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh, for me, it's always been about the horse, and throughout my career, and even now, today, every day that I'm with them, I think about why I'm in it, like why I do this, and it's for the love of the horse. And I hope through my success and teaching people and giving clinics and talking on these interviews that I can bring that across, that always go back to your heart and why you do what you do. And for me, it's the love of the horse and the enjoyment that they bring us every day. And even at the top level in the world, I don't ever want to forget that as a rider, that they're these magnificent, beautiful animals that are incredibly generous, that allow us to get on their backs and train them and perform for us for hat or sugar or some food happily.
Yes.
And I just think that's remarkable. Like, I don't know if I would do that. Like, the horses are incredible. So that's what I want to always remember.
For sure. Yeah. So let's go back into your biography for a minute, because I'm so intrigued with that. Can you tell us, for our listeners that might not be familiar with your history and how you grew up and things like that, can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Australia. My parents are Australian, and we moved all over the world when I was young. So by the time I was 16, I'd lived in 9 different countries.
Wow.
And we moved to, and lots of foreign, like Indonesia, Singapore, Hong Kong, the Philippines. I actually started riding in the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
And my start was there. My sister and I, at the time, we were into swimming, and we belonged to this club called a polo club, but there was swimming and tennis and everything all in this one club. And one day we went home to my parents, and we said, we want to ride. And they're like, ride what? they're not horsey at all. So that was my start, and I never stopped. And we ended up moving from the Philippines to Atlanta, Georgia, and then from Atlanta to Toronto, Canada, where I live now. And horses just came with me every step of the way. So I started riding in the Philippines, and then throughout, when I moved to Canada, I always had a bit of trouble feeling my identity as a young child. Like, I never really knew where I belonged, because we lived in so many different countries, and I knew I was Australian and born there, but never felt Australian, because I left when I was 3 months old. Yet I didn't really feel like I was from the Philippines or any of these other places. And when I moved to Canada, I really felt like this is a place that I belonged and felt a part of. So I became Canadian. None of my family were Canadian at that time, and started riding for Canada and started my life here. So that's a bit of the very beginning start of my career.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. So I don't know, I'm curious, of all the countries that you've been to and ridden in, how would they all compare to each other? I mean, I get it, the horse is the horse, regardless of the country we're in, but do you see a difference in coaching, in instruction, in kind of the way things are set up and run?
Well, the Philippines was actually really a great start. I mean, you don't think about learning how to ride in the Philippines, but the Polo Club had a great school, a super riding school, which then you could go on and lease horses, and they also offered every discipline. They had polo, they had eventing, they had jumping, and they had dressage. And it's funny, as a child, I remember walking by the dressage arena going, those people look so serious and scary. I would never do that. And now here I am, dedicated to the sport. But so it was really good as a basis, the Philippines, because they offered everything. And I think as a young child, when you're learning how to ride, it's important to feel and experience every part of riding, like gymkhanas and pony club, and not getting too serious all at once. And I was lucky to have that experience. So as far as top-level sport, no. I mean, they don't have top-level competitions. But as a start in riding, the Philippines was really, really great for me.
Gotcha. So lots of variety.
Lots of variety. I mean, they really had... I played polo. I evented. I did show jumping. But I never rode dressage there. That's the only thing I did not do.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my only other 2 countries really to compare is, well, and of course, Germany, because I've spent a lot of time in Germany just from training since then, but Canada and the United States. And the United States, I think, is fantastic. I mean, I think the programs that they have in place, they have so many programs for gold medal riders, like your bronze and your silver and your gold medal, and their system for bringing along riders, I think is also, it's very motivational. Like I look to the States and often talk to my fellow Canadians and say we need to look at them as examples on how we need to run our programs to keep interest in dressage. And I think that what the United States has accomplished has been incredible. And as far as dressage goes, they have been so successful. I mean, to be able to break through the European countries who have been the top in the sport for so many years and be bronze medalists last year in Rio is fantastic.
Yeah.
And have Laura Graves, like she's number 2 in the world, and that's incredible too. So I have huge respect and admiration for the United States and how they run their programs. And Canada is just a much, much, much smaller version, and I still think that we have a lot to look at from them. I mean, as Canadians, we are very passionate people and dedicated people, and we just need more guidance and support along the way to grow our programs. So, and I became the rider I am today in dressage living in Canada. So there are some great coaches and great programs here too. It's just, I think the States is really for us to look at to improve.
Gotcha.
And then, Germany, of course, is incredible. I mean, they have just huge, number one, I think it's the number 4 industry in Germany. Like, it's behind automotive and behind
no kidding. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, equestrian is enormous. And they have huge riding schools, and then from their riding schools you go to this next step, and then to become a trainer in Germany, you have to then go on to your rider program, and you have to go to school for that. Like it's a whole we call it Arbitor, which is like a apprentice program. Mm-hmm. So they are very, very detailed, but their numbers are absolutely huge.
Yeah.
So lots of good experiences in different countries to compare to.
Right. Oh, that's tremendous. So, you said you got your start with dressage in Canada then?
Actually, my serious start I did get in Canada, but I did start when we moved from the Philippines to Atlanta. I was a show jumper, and my sister was with me. We used to ride together, and we shared a horse. And my parents bought a horse for us, which we shared. And she one day decided she didn't want to jump. She wanted to ride dressage. And I didn't really care. I just wanted to ride. So I said, okay, well, I guess our horse is now a dressage horse. So we started doing dressage, and my sister turned 16 and started driving me to the barn and said, if you don't tell Mom and Dad, you can ride my day, and I'm going to go off and see my boyfriend. And I said, this is perfect.
No way.
I'm loving it. So I got the horse like 6 days a week, and I kept my mouth shut about it. And I don't think my parents might know today, but I don't know.
Uh-oh. Well, now it's been broadcast to the world.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they're on podcast yet. I might be lucky that they don't hear it. I'm not sure.
Well, that's very cool. That's very cool. So then, growing up with dressage, then from that point on, at what point did these ideas of competition come into mind?
That was when I moved to Canada. So I had a horse. He was, and at this point, my sister actually had completely stopped riding when we moved to Canada. And I think I'm trying to remember, I think it was like 2nd or 3rd level. And I started training with Gary Vanderplug, a Canadian coach. And he was the one who said, this horse is a nice horse, and I think that we can get you to the young riders. And that's when I started competing and competing more seriously, which I did do a year later. I think it was 19. I don't need to say the dates now because then you know how old I am. But 1988 was when I was a young rider. I went to my first young riders in 1988 with a horse called Sonnet with Gary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Wow. And so then you were in three, I'm cheating, I'm looking on your biography. So you competed in three North American Young Rider Championships then?
Yes, I did. So 2 years was with this horse Sonnet,
Okay.
and then I bought another horse with Gary, who was Dublin, and that was my final year as a young rider. I think I'm trying to remember the dates, but maybe 91 was my last year.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So you were pretty serious in with it even from a young age. So that's pretty awesome. At what point did you set your goals on the Olympics? Was that something, I imagine it's kind of every little girl's dream, especially if she's growing up riding dressage. But at what point did you think that was a serious goal that you were going to tackle?
It was when I was a young rider. Definitely I had a taste of the international competition and what that was like. And at that point, did want to go to the Olympics. The dream had started, and I wouldn't say it was extremely serious at that point. It was sort of out there. I didn't ever think as a young rider I was going to ride as a career, or I would be a coach or a professional. I thought I would have a proper job,
okay.
as some people say. But so that happened much later on for me. But the dream of the Olympics started when I was a young rider.
Gotcha. So then what did it take, the process getting to that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of riders out there, and hopefully a lot of them are listening, that maybe do have aspirations of competing at the Olympics. So what are they looking at to get to that point?
I would say that it's an incredible amount of work. I mean, work that you never dreamed you would work that hard and sacrifice as much as you do. And I mean, they always say the word determination, but that's a huge part of it. And I would say grit. Like, you need grit. I mean, the days that, you don't feel like it, your body hurts, you're upset because your horse, something happened to your horse, you just gotta pull up your socks and keep fighting and never, ever stop fighting for it. And it is harder than anybody can imagine to make it to that level and to keep going to that level, to the next step.
Yeah.
And it was, years and years for me. Like I wanted to, when I first started the thought of the Olympics as a young rider, which was the dream. But then the serious component came when I moved to Germany in 1992 and started training with my coach, who is still my coach today, which is Christophe Boylan. She came over to Canada and taught a clinic. She was living in Germany, and she invited me to train with her. And so I went over there and I became a working student, and I lived there for 2 full years. And then I went back and forth for many years thereafter. But it was the second year I was with her, I had a horse that was a Grand Prix horse, and I wanted to try for the 96 Olympics. And right before the trials, he went lame. So I couldn't go into the trials, and it was right when I was going home. And going back a little bit to the story of how did I decide to be a professional, she was the one who encouraged me at that time. She said, Belinda, I don't know what you're thinking about doing when you go home. And I said, well, I'm probably going to get back into, I was in event marketing before that, so I might get back into event marketing. And she said, well, I think you should coach. And we need coaches and people with knowledge at home. And we need what you've learned here. You need to spread that. So it was the first time I actually had even thought about it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try. That was sort of how I started. I'm going to give it a try and see what happens.
Wow.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I still had my goals of the Olympics. So this horse I had that was lame right before the trials, so then I was out for that. And throughout the years, I had another horse that we bought specifically for the 2000. It was in Australia, the Sydney Olympics in 2000. And he also had injury after injury after injury, and again didn't make it. And it was just like each cycle of each Olympics seemed to be another issue or of something else and something else. And it was finally when I acquired Royan where I did make it to the Olympics. But through that period of time, it was from really 1995 when I got very serious about the goal, to the point of packing up my life and changing my life and learning how to ride and living in Germany, to 2004 that I actually made it. And if you think year after year, you might get a little discouraged, and you just can't. I mean, I always say it's not about everybody has hurdles. Like, you're going to have hurdles that are going to be put in front of you.
Sure.
But it's not about the hurdles. It's about how you jump them. You just have to jump them if that's what you want. And that's what it is to become an Olympian, is that amount of jumping and perseverance, and just you got to keep going.
Yeah. So you just have to have that end goal in sight, and that's got to mean more to you than the hurdles that are coming up in front of you.
Yeah, and to look at the hurdles as in, okay, I just have to figure out how to jump this, because it's they're never gonna go away. And I had a really pivotal moment in my life when I went to a conference. They have a group in Canada. It was called Athletes Can, and all the ex-Olympians, they come together and they form it's a group that helps promote Olympians, and as an athlete you can come together as a voice, and they have these conferences. So you have para-Olympians and able-bodied athletes there too. And this one guy came and he gave a speech, and he was a wheelchair athlete. He had no legs, and he just come back, and I don't remember from what games, and had won multiple gold medals in wheelchair sprinting. And he was the one who had said this speech, because at the time I thought, I was left my life. I went to train in Europe. I didn't make it with Ellis. I didn't make it with Kivian. My other horse had this injury. That horse didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then so this guy says, he goes up on stage and he said, and then he used that line, it's not about the hurdles that are put in front of you, it's about how you jump them. And I looked at him and I thought, this guy, he has no legs.
Right.
Like, he's going, just jump your hurdles. Like, his positivity and his attitude and his determination, I'll never forget that. And I wish I even remember his name and thank him for what he gave me at that moment in my life, because I thought, what do I have to complain about?
Right, right. Like he's looking right at you saying, what's your problem? What's your hang-up?
Yeah. I got no legs, but I just won 3 gold medals.
Right.
Like, come on.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really a moment for me, because it gave me a perspective and an understanding and a sense of what he goes through daily. Like, how does he get up those stairs if there's no wheelchair? Like, right. What he goes through daily, and he just came back from an Olympics with multiple gold medals. And those were his words. It's not about the hurdles. It's about how you jump them. And everybody in life, even if you're not in sport, is going to have hurdles in one way or another. And if it's something that you want, that you're passionate about, that your heart follows, you just have to learn how to jump them and figure out how to jump them. And that's that grit and determination that I was talking about to make it to the top level.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. So there's got to be a ton of stress, obviously, and I'm sure that's a big part of the hurdle there leading up to that. And, something that I wonder, you're coaching at this same time. So how does, I know myself as a full-time clinician, I have, at this point I have no horses of my own because I'm on the road constantly teaching, but I could only imagine if I had horses that I was trying to be developing and working up into competition, it would be really difficult for me to do that. How do you balance coaching and competing at such high levels?
It's really hard. And I think we all, like, as top professionals that have those, like, are in the Olympics and have to spend months away, it's really hard. And what I try and do is offer the best for my clients when I am away. They're allowed to come with me. Like if I'm in, for instance, Florida's a very big circuit for us now. Okay. I always offer that there's space if they want to come with me. And I've just started doing, I think, which is brilliant, and I know you've done them too, is the video lessons. And just like I just had one of my clients, and she came up with a brilliant idea, and she's talking about Florida next year, and she can't go because of her circumstances and work. And she said, can I hire you for a lesson, pay for your lesson a week, and I send you video clips of the week, and we have a discussion about that. And I thought, that's brilliant. Like, I thought it was a wonderful idea, and we know each other so well that it'll be easy to do that through video. And right. I also have a really super assistant, Lindsay Rowan, who can keep things going for me or ride horses for me while I'm away too. So I've actually set my stable and my system up to help with that, because in the past I didn't have Lindsay, or it didn't have access to videos, and it was hard for my clients. A lot of them, I tried to bring in outside coaches, and that sometimes was good, and sometimes the connection didn't work, so that was always a bit difficult. But this way, having the program the way it is, and having Lindsay in place, and then I'm there with the amazement of technology. I'm grateful for technology. I can still help them, but it's not easy. Like I sometimes really I'm jealous of, like, I look at these tennis players. Like my family is really big into tennis, so we're always watching tennis, and I like, this athlete, all he has to think about is himself and like his next physio or whatever. And I'm thinking, I've got my 8 lessons and then how many horses to train. Right. But I do have my moments of utter jealousy when I look at those. But I have to tell you, my clients and my horses that are with me, I believe everyone has something to teach you. And even though maybe I'm the coach and teaching that person, they have something they offer me back and help me back. And it only helps me with my own horse and my own riding and my own goals. So that's the way I look at it. And I think it's best if you can think of what you do have and what you can take out of that to be successful, because then you will be successful, rather than being resentful that I have to teach this many lessons in order to feed my family. No, like, think of what they can give you. And they do. My students every day give me something that I take and feel joyful for. Or even in teaching them, I go, I need to be better myself at that. Then become a better rider. I have another wonderful client who is in her late 60s, and she wants to learn to connect her horse. Like, she has a great horse, and she's done very well, but she wants to make him to the next level. And I said, you got to ride without stirrups. And she is riding. We had a lesson yesterday, 30 minutes without stirrups.
Oh, nice.
I said to myself this morning, I said, I better try 5 minutes, because look at her doing 30.
Right. And you probably didn't even have to carry her out of the arena.
No, she's just like, and I said to her, okay, now take them back. And she's like, I don't know if I really want to.
Oh, nice.
That's amazing. And like, look at her. And so I think of her perseverance and I'm like, okay, I gotta live up to that.
Right.
So that's how I do think about it. And I also make sure that I do have time for my horses. That's one thing I've had to learn about over the years, or it's horses that I'm competing and training. I used to a lot, like say I have a 45-minute lesson, I allot 45 minutes, but I don't, I allot an hour. So if I want to go for a walk, if I want to take 5 minutes and get my mind in the right headspace, which is critical for training, then I do that. And so I learned to do that too. And then also learned that there's only so many that I can do well in a day. So those are all lessons that I've learned over the years to help balance it all out.
Right. Now, do you try to ride your horses first thing? I know that was something that was advice that was given to me back when I did have horses that I was riding and using mostly as clinic and demonstration horses, honestly. But I had another fellow horseman friend who said, you need to ride your horses first, because at the end of the day, after you've ridden everyone else's, you'll probably put off riding yours and say, oh, I'm tired, I want to go to dinner or whatever, I'll ride them tomorrow. But if you ride yours first, you won't get tired because you'll always ride the horses you're being paid to ride.
Yeah. I think that I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that it depends on the individual that you are. For me, myself, that is really important. I'm fresh in the morning, and your day hasn't gotten away with you. Like, you're not late, and you're focused, and it's quiet, and you have that time. I know that there are other colleagues that feel like at the end of the day is when it's quiet and they have their time, and it's almost like, okay, my day is done with my responsibilities, and now I can just spend this hour with my horse. I think it's really an individual thing. Like, I sometimes need to be flexible with my own clients if they can't get there at a certain time, or my staff. I have staff to help me tack up because I have so many to do, and if they can't be there at that time, and I need to do that in the afternoon, so I have to be somewhat flexible. But like, for instance, tomorrow I have a lesson with my coach, and I've blocked off an hour and a half. So I have my 15 minutes prior to my lesson to focus. I don't ride for that long. I ride for 45 maybe, and then I have another 15 minutes after, so I don't feel like, oh, I'm late, I got to quickly finish, that I really spend that time. So I think that in most cases, it's great if you can do that in the morning, but I think it also depends on your own unique situation and when you feel most focused too.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, because you want to bring absolutely the best to those horses that you're trying to bring along. Of course, you want to bring your best to everyone's horses, but especially those horses that you're competing with.
Yeah, true.
Now, also, you have a family. That's something that a lot of people, when we're going around teaching and competing and doing those sorts of things, it's easy for folks to not recognize the family time that's so essential. How do you balance that as well?
I think that's probably the hardest on me. Like, I mean, the word is in some words suffer. Like, I really struggle when I'm away, and away for months at a time. And there's been times in my life I haven't seen my kids or my husband for 6 weeks. Yeah. And it's really hard because, they're number one. They're what you live for. And what I do is, I'm very fortunate that I'm in a position now where I can do most of my work during the week, Monday to Friday, and I can have my lessons and my clients can come during the week. So the only times I work on weekends which ends up being quite a bit, but it's horse shows and clinics. And I try not to teach on the weekends. So my weekends are for my family when I am home in town. And I also, 3 nights a week, I pick them up from school, my kids up from school or from camp or whatever is going on in their lives, so that I'm a big a big part of that. And on another note, the flexibility of this job is wonderful. So if my son Matthew or my daughter Sophie, they have a baseball game or a basketball game in the middle of the day, I might block off that hour or two and then work later. So I am able to do that, which is great. And another thing I do, and I am very fortunate that my kids are like this, and my husband too, who is very supportive. They are very involved. So my kids started working for me. They're not working for me, but they're working for Carl, who is my farm manager, this summer at the barn.
Oh,
and my
nice.
kids they're 11 and 12 years old, and they never earned money, and they're so excited to have a little money, and they have to do all the tough jobs. They have to cobweb and wash water buckets and feed tubs and sweep and clean the bathroom.
Oh, perfect. That's so good for them, though, at that age, too.
Oh, it's so good. And what's so cute is they are so involved in the barn. And I had a question about Anton's feed the other day. I said, what does Anton eat? And Sophie's like, he gets 2 cups of this and 2 cups of that and 3 this and 3 that.
Nice.
And so it's really fun because they're so involved. And even when I am away, we do a lot of FaceTime. And what's great with the internet and all this live streaming is they've been able to watch a bunch of my competitions. And my son phoned me last year, right after I'd done a freestyle with Anton at the Global Dressage Festival. And he said, hey, Mommy, I just watched your freestyle. I said, oh, yeah, what'd you think? He goes, I thought it was pretty good, but it's too bad you made a mistake in the one. Oh. And I was like, yeah, I know, that was too bad. So they're really a part of it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And now they can coach Mommy.
Oh, yeah, they do. I have to, Sophie's now decided she's going to turn Anton into a jumper, and we have to jump. And
Good. How does he like that?
He actually loves it. He would do anything for them.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really cute. He sees the kids and he's banging at his stall. You have to come and pat me now. Yeah, he really loves them. So he would do anything. Whatever, you going to jump, we'll jump.
That's awesome. Well, I have to say, I think that ought to be some inspiration from you there that folks take away from, if anything, I think that's a great takeaway from this conversation so far, is, I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, maybe when the kids go away to college or when the kids are grown and move out, then I'll pursue my dreams, or, oh, I can't do that because I've got a spouse and a family and things like that. And, I think you're living proof right there that you can compete and fulfill your dreams at the highest levels and still be the family person and have that family there along the way. So I think that's something hopefully folks will take as inspiration to continue on and pursue their dreams.
Yeah, you can. And there's times that I really have the normal guilt and concern that I'm not there quite as much, or I see some other moms that might be able to be every day at the school and part of lunches and everything else, and that that I can't be. But 2 things I think about is I'm showing my kids to pursue your dreams and go for your passion in life, whatever that is, and enjoy what you do. And I hope that they look at me and feel proud of me. I know that I'm a happy mom because of what I do, and I know that happiness will rub off on them, and they are happy kids. So if I could give anyone advice is do pursue your dreams, and at the same time include your children in any way, if it's discussion or any way possible. And so far it's been really wonderful for me. I'm lucky, and I do hope that I at some point can bring them if I go to. I haven't been able to bring them to a major games yet, so I hope I will be able to, and they can be a part of that too. But even from a distance, yeah, I know it'd be great. I actually held a sign at the opening ceremonies in Rio. I held it because I thought or I hid it. So I hid it in my jacket because I didn't know if they'd let me, go on the field with it when you do the walk around behind your flag.
Okay.
And I just had this big sign, I love you, Matthew and Sophie from Mummy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was on TV. I don't know if I was on American TV, but I was on Canadian TV with my sign. So, so they still a part of it. But yeah, so anyway, you can include them along your journey. But go for your dreams for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And the technology is fantastic. Like you said, the FaceTime and the streaming video. I mean, it helps so much when you're away for all that time. So.
It's huge. And I think being able to see each other is really huge. Yeah. And even the texting. I can't tell you how many nights Matthew would, I'd say, how did your basketball game go? I was in Florida. He was here at home. And he would say, oh, pretty good. I scored this. And we would text back and forth for 20 minutes. And it just, you feel like you're part of their day.
Yeah.
And I think we're so lucky. Like, I know there's times we all get frustrated with technology and it's all a bit much, but there's so many great things about it too. And that's one thing. It's amazing. Like, we have those avenues now to communicate.
Right. We are at a tremendous time that we have so much of this available to us. It's fantastic.
Yeah. When I first moved to Germany in 92, there was no internet, and I had to walk to the payphone and call Canada Direct Operator to call through.
Oh wow! Wow, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, this is not that long ago.
Right. It's amazing how fast things are moving now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've got the sign at the Olympics that you're carrying in the opening ceremonies. So, what was life like leading up to the Olympics there? Once you found out that you've made it, you're qualified, you're making plans to get there, how did all of that go leading up?
It's of course when you're actually named to the team, it's so exciting. It's such a moment in your life, and it's pretty wonderful. With Rio, it was very complicated because of the dynamics of Rio. It also, we had to have all these like vaccines and take all these pills and things before leaving. So I didn't really prepare. I should have prepared myself a bit better, but I didn't get a bunch of the vaccines early enough, and then had to kind of cram them in before I left. And that was really kind of awful, actually, having a bunch of vaccines. But that was a big part of it. And there were a lot of technical dynamics with going to Rio. Brazil won't allow any wood products in their country, so anything that you were going to pack, you couldn't bring a wooden trunk. You couldn't bring like boot poles with wooden handles. You couldn't bring a wooden boot jack.
Oh wow!
Brushes with a wooden handle. Like there's so many things that have wood on them.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't even think about it, but like you said, the boot poles and the brushes. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So here I am thinking of all the plastics that I have, and even trunks. I mean, I have like a big old wooden trunk that I usually bring to tour show. That one wasn't coming. So there was a lot of organizing with packing, and Rio also required very detailed packing lists. So with what you were allowed to bring and not allowed to bring into the country, you then had to in detail write exactly what you had in each trunk and what was the financial value of each item in your trunk. So, and you have a lot you've got to bring, because it's not like there's a tax store or if you forget something, you're right. Yeah, you got to be kind of over prepared.
Yeah. So there was a huge amount of technical details, and we had calls every week discussing packing list, discussing transportation. The also complication with Rio was the crime and the danger and the transportation. So they had very strict rules for us, and I think most countries did, that we had to stay in the Olympic Village. So normally in Athens, I didn't have children in Athens, but I was also married to Mark, and we stayed together. We didn't go in the Olympic Village because any spouse or you were only allowed in Olympic Village if you're an athlete or direct personnel to the team. So spouse or family or friends are not allowed within a 2-kilometer radius of the Olympic Village because of security. So I opted in Athens to rent an apartment and stay with Mark off site because I wanted to be with family. Mm-hmm. And at this Olympics, they aren't not allowing you, but they've highly discouraged you to stay outside of the village. So there was a lot of logistics with that. So Mark did come down to Rio, and my parents and my sister came. But where they stayed was so far away from the village that there was it was hard to even see them because there's no taxis weren't allowed where they are, so you couldn't hop in a taxi, and traffic was so bad that for something that would take 20 minutes to walk could take 2 hours to drive. Wow. But you didn't really want to walk it alone. Yeah. so there was so much discussion around that, and if you had a car, you could rent a car or a driver. But that cost $545 US a day.
Whoa! Wow.
So and everything ends up being quite escalated when there's an Olympics. So that wasn't really a possibility either. So we had all these discussions around logistics. So there was a lot of details, and I remember the time leading up to Rio. I felt like I want to get off these calls and just ride my horse.
Right.
Like just focus on riding, but you can. I mean, those things are just as important.
Right. Exactly.
So it was quite intense. Is probably the best word, because there's just so many small yet big details, and of course with the horses you've got to fly them there. So there was the whole arrangement with flying them there and how they were going to get there. And in Canada, in dressage, we didn't have a team. We didn't qualify as a country, so we had only 2 individuals going. So it was me and Megan Lane as individuals. So we didn't we had to kind of fit in on a cargo plane with the jumpers or anywhere we could kind of fit in.
Oh, just kind of wherever they could find a spot to squeeze you.
Yeah.
Wow, I'll bet that was fun too.
Yeah, I know. So there was all of that we had to kind of organize and figure out in the prep up to Rio. So I have to say, the day that I left, it was almost like a relief that all that organization was finished and we were on our way.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Because if you forgot it, it didn't matter at that point. It was gone.
Yeah. That's right.
Wow, wow. Now, was there a quarantine time for the horses?
No, not on the way there. Okay. On the way back, yes, they had to spend 7 days in New York in the quarantine facility. Okay. And that was really hard because you weren't allowed to ride them, and they were only allowed to hand walk along, like in the aisle of the barn. And so you're taking pretty fit horses that are basically all confined for 7 days. So, that was the only quarantine though, but that was tough on them.
Right. Wow. So, and I remember you posting photos also. I remember trying to follow along as well as I could. You were posting photos of the fitness center, all the Olympians kind of working out early in the mornings and things like that as you went. Was there a lot of interaction with the other Olympians while you were there?
It's funny. Not really. I mean, not so much from country to country. It's amazing how focused everybody is.
Yeah.
It's the Olympic Village is the most extraordinary thing you've ever seen. Like my our vet, our team vet, came with me one day for a day pass to see it, and she said, "I feel like I'm in a sci-fi movie where they've taken all the best athlete specimens in the world and plonked them in one place." and it was like that. Like, I was like, you just walk down the path and you see this big group of joggers, like not just jogging, but you can tell like jogging. And, like, wow, they look amazing. And the bodies were incredible. And I people that's taller than I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'm like, wow, volleyball, basketball. And it's quite fun because you try and guess their sport. You're like, oh, and I saw a couple of famous people. I saw Venus Williams and Serena Williams. I saw Michael Phelps. And I felt bad for Michael. Like, you want to focus as an athlete, right? You're hoping that in the village that you have your time, and all the volunteers, the Brazilian volunteers would all follow him and take pictures of him and record him. And I remember him saying at one point, he said, if I let you take my picture, will you please leave me alone? Like, I kind of felt for him.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, because like you said, everybody's there so intense and so focused on what they're needing to do. I mean, that's the biggest thing they could be trying to accomplish right there, potentially.
Yeah, and I thought, well, I'm kind of lucky. No one knows who the heck a Canadian dressage rider is. But because Michael Phelps is so famous in what he's done, and it must be hard for him to find his quiet zone and his quiet time. But
I'm sure.
But that was really neat about the village, like, and just seeing the bodies. But everyone is very much focused on their job there. Like, no one's like, I didn't feel a big party atmosphere, and I was there probably a bit earlier on too, so maybe near the end of the Olympics. I didn't get to stay for the closing ceremonies, but I think perhaps it changes. But it was very, very focused. And there's the dining hall. I mean, the dining hall is as big as a football stadium, and they have all kinds of cuisine. Like, they have Italian, and they have like Indian, like every kind of cuisine. And and that was always remarkable. I ended up sitting across this one. I don't know where she was from. I think she was from China, and it was breakfast. And she ate 3 plates, like full plates of rice and pasta and eggs and fruit. And I had like my toast, with my banana. I was like, wow. I kept looking at her going, where was she does? And she had huge shoulders.
Wow.
So what is her sport? And then later on, I saw her, because I was walking to the buses afterwards. So there's a big bus depot where you go to all these different spots where the buses take you to your individual venue. So, my bus had equestrian and shooting was like in the same area, so we would go on that bus. And I saw her going with a canoe paddle. Canoe. So I'm like, oh, that's why you need all that food.
Right.
Yeah. So wow. That was pretty neat. And the gym is crazy. I'm not much of, like, I am fit for my sport, and I do yoga and stuff like that. But the gym was insane. Like, if you can imagine the most pumped up, intense gym and these athletes that are doing, I mean, the highest of the treadmill, like the steepest slope, the biggest weights you've seen. Like, wow. I said, I can't go there. Like, I'm too scared to go there.
I think I remember you sharing a photo. I want to say it was either the stationary bikes or the treadmills or something, and I remember thinking there's like 1 million of them.
1 million, and they're all used. And they are used day and night. Like, first thing in the morning, all through the night. Like, I don't think the gym closes. The workout. Well, they're Olympians.
Yeah, right, exactly. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very impressive.
That's awesome. That's very cool. I loved that you were sharing photos as you went. I was probably one of the many stalkers that was checking in on your page every day to see what new photo you might have posted.
I know, it's fun for me. I was thinking about that experience and just being in the village, what it's like to be in the village, what it's like to be at the Olympics. And there's so few people in the world. I think I saw a stat like 0.2% or something that become Olympians, and the rest of the world is so interested in that. And I think, there's a few things about the Olympics that hold dear to my heart. And it's not only what each of these athletes has persevered and come through to get to that point, which I think is admirable at every sport at any level, but also in the village of the feeling of peace among nations. And I remember feeling that in Athens. In Athens, in the opening ceremonies, you walk around, and then after you do your march, we all went in the middle, and then they went on with the celebrations of the opening ceremonies. And at that time, they had put this big tarp over us in the middle as athletes, and everyone just mingled. Like no one could understand each other. There's so many languages spoken, yet everyone's putting their arms around each other, taking pictures with each other, and it struck me as the true meaning of the Olympics, of the peace and coming together. And it was really beautiful. And I felt that again in Rio, and even being in the Olympics, it was all very, everyone was very focused, of course, on their sport, but it was also a very peaceful atmosphere. And there was definitely, pride among nations. Like the village consisted of a bunch of different high-rises, and each high-rise was a country, or there might be one high-rise with a few different countries. And so each building was decorated. So it was Canada building, or the U.S. building, or Germany. Yeah. So you felt proud or pride among your buildings. And absolutely everybody wore their Olympic team country colors, which was also wonderful. And everybody, everybody was in their track pants and shorts and whatever. And some countries, I think they could use a little bit of fashion guidance, whoever designed these clothes. But it didn't matter. They're wearing them.
They were still proud.
They're still proud. Yeah. And that was really, really nice.
What not to wear, Olympic edition.
Yeah, I'm thinking, wow, that's not that flattering. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, I love the way you talked about there being kind of peace amongst everybody there, and I mean, just kind of thinking about it, I would assume that part of that would be because you've already won, right? If you've all qualified to be there, you know you're at the top of your game as it is.
Yeah, it's funny. I've never thought of it that way. It's really interesting when you're there, but I think you're really correct, and I think that you could give a speech to a bunch of Olympians because it's such an intense group of people. And I remember reading a blog on a Canadian cyclist who hadn't made her cut, or she hadn't made her heat, and I wanted to cry reading this. She goes, what I've sacrificed and believing that I could make this, and then that not happening, and I feel such defeat and devastation, and all these words that she was feeling through her blog. And I remember reading this going, I know that feeling. I know that and I hadn't competed at the time. I thought, if I compete and I don't accomplish what I want to accomplish, it's going to be devastating. So I actually think it would be so important for Olympians to hear that, because they want to win. I mean, they're used to being at the top of their game wherever they come from, and then you're among the best of the best, and it's a whole nother dynamic. And if you don't accomplish that, still think you are a winner. But the feeling is very, very intense, and they all want to be the winner, and if they're not, they're if you're second place, you're the first loser.
Right, right.
So that's a little bit, I think, the feeling among many Olympians anyway.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's so right. I think that you're right. You've made it. You're there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about Anton, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I figured you'd be okay with that. I mean, who doesn't want to talk about their horse, right?
I know.
So what I was most intrigued with, and what I definitely want to hear about, is how did Anton handle being at the Olympics? How did he handle the pressure? I know you had made the comment whenever we met, we were talking about him, and you said he just kind of goes in like he owns the place, and he really just excels in that kind of environment. And watching your ride at the Olympics, I couldn't help but feel that way also. When you got to halfway through your test, you had your walk, and he just looked like Joe Cool, like he just owned the place, and everybody was there to watch him.
Yeah, he's Anton is a competitor. I mean, he was born to compete. He loves to compete. He is very competitive himself, and he knew where he was. He knew why he was there, and he was he was really excellent. He's a horse that loves the pressure, loves the environment. I mean, one thing that I think was a little bit difficult was all winter we competed at the Global Dressage Festival and often did the freestyle nights, and it's a lot of people and a lot of atmosphere. And at most major games in countries that where equestrian sport is large, there's huge crowds. I mean, in Normandy in France, the dressage was held in a football stadium, and there was, I think, 20,000 people there. If you compete in Aachen, there's, I think, 6,000 or I don't know, 6 or 10,000 in that stadium. So he's ready and used to that, going to that kind of a venue. And the Brazilians aren't that interested in dressage. So the stadium was empty. I mean, the only people that were there watching were, I think, friends and family. There were very few. So that was somewhat difficult because I'm used to him pumping up another degree with the atmosphere. And I think it confused him too. Like, I think he was like, is this a practice round or is this the real deal?
Gotcha.
And so I did feel that from him, and I'm like, no, this is the real deal. We've got to pick it up.
Turn it on, dude.
Come on, let's fire. And he did fire, and he was really, really excellent. So I'm really proud of him. Like he went in there and he did what he was born with, and he handled everything well. He handled the trip. He handled the change in his life well, and he performed really well both competitions.
Nice, very good. So how is he handling life after the Olympics? You said your daughter's wanting to make him a jumper. How else has things changed for him?
Yeah, so when I sort of started feeling this way a little bit last year before the Olympics. Anton, he was 16 last year, so 17 now. And I had started to feel like, do I want to keep going with him at this level and keep trying for more major games with him? And knowing that this year is an off year, meaning there's no World Championship, no Pan American Games, it's an off year for us. And I was very happy with him at the Olympics. I don't think he could have done better. I mean, he went in there and did his utter best. And the hardest part for me at the Olympics was I went in there hoping to make the freestyle round, which is the final round. So you have your Grand Prix, which is the first round, and the top 25 go on. Top 25 go on to the special, and then which is the second round, and then from the special, the top 15, I believe, go on to the freestyle.
Okay.
And my goal was that final. I wanted to make the final round. And we made the second cut, we made the special, and he did perform his best in the special, but we didn't make the freestyle. The score just was not high enough for the final round. And I'd already started to feel this beforehand, before the Olympics, and I thought, I I'm disappointed that I didn't make my goal, and that was hard. Like, it was really hard for me. Like, I actually came back from the Olympics feeling quite down about it for a long time. And it was different because I didn't feel a disappointment in the performance, but a disappointment in what I couldn't accomplish with this horse that I think is amazing. And I think I felt that. And I didn't know, it didn't, my heart was telling me that it was time to do something different with Anton. And he's always been a very, very competitive horse, and he's always loved competition and loved to compete. And there was one show a year ago in Global. No, it was, 2 years ago. It was shortly after he'd had a big injury where he was off for 2.5 years. And I brought him back, and I was nervous to ride him when I first brought him back, and I was conservative. And I remember coming out of the ring, and I'd ridden him conservatively just because I still was like, oh, is he okay? I hope I'm not hurting him. Is he all right? And I remember him being overwhelmingly disappointed in me. Like, I could feel it from his body language. Like, he just, after the test, like, hung his head and, like, looked at me like, are you going to pick up your game, or are you going to ride me like that? Like,
horse tried, rider didn't, in the judges' comments, right?
No, that's right. He's like, don't know what happened to the rider in that test. So I was on and ready and waiting for the signals. So, and I was like, man, number one, he was right. And I this horse needs that. He loves it. He needs that. He's not there just to compete. He's there to compete well. And so at the Olympics, he's 16, he's 17 next year. I think, I really believe in my heart we've reached our max. Like, I don't think there's any more in this horse that he can get more higher scores. Like, he is brilliant at what he does, and that's where he is. And I didn't want to keep pushing that and him not winning and not going out there and doing his best. I wanted to end our career on a high. And he set 2 Canadian records for the highest score ever achieved by a Canadian at Olympic Games in Rio. And I wanted to end us together on that. And I was talking to one of my students about my feelings and feeling, I'm not really, I think that's what I want, and I'm not sure. And she said to me, well, if you ever would like to lease this horse, would you please consider me? And I was like, oh, like I thought, wow, I have to think about that. Like, I think that might be a really good idea. And so through months, actually, it was months of discussion, and I said to her, well, why don't you ride him for a month, and let's see if you guys like each other. If Anton likes you and you like Anton, and you think it's a match, and she's never ridden the Grand Prix, and she wanted to learn how to ride the Grand Prix, so let's see if it looks like this will be a right thing. And it really turned out to be, like, he's actually a really good teacher, and he expects perfection from his riders, and he tells Abby if she isn't perfect.
Oh, that's fantastic, though. That's exactly what a rider would need.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's probably very it is frustrating at times, but I'm like, and Abby's wonderful. She goes, oh my God, I was pulling too hard. He told me again. And I'm like, yeah. So that's sort of what happened after the Olympics, and it's now 10 months later. She's been riding him since October, and what she's learned and what he's taught her, and it's just been amazing. And I really feel in my heart it was the right decision, and she is an incredible person. Like, I wouldn't have been able to lease him to somebody who didn't have the respect and gratitude to have a horse like this, and she does. And so it's been a really nice next step for Anton.
Fantastic. Good. He gets to share his wealth of knowledge now.
He does. He does. And there's not a lot of horses that can do that. You know, there's not a lot of great Grand Prix horses. And last year he's a top 25 horse in the world. And,
Right.
and he's, you know, able to share that. So no, it's a great gift to be able to give somebody.
Right. Right. And do I understand it right? He won a Dressage Horse of the Year award also?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was Dressage Horse of the Year. And then I was Dressage Athlete of the Year last year. So, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Wow, good. Good. Congratulations to both of you on that.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. He deserves it. He's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your goals now? I know you said, and I am gonna harass you for saying you were disappointed in what you didn't accomplish, you know, in the whole setting records and, you know, athlete of the year and all that stuff. I mean, you know, you got so much to be disappointed about there, making it in the, what was it, 0.02% of the world.
I know. It's terrible. It sounds terrible.
No, but I totally understand that. You know, you've got that drive to just do more, you know, and I think that's great too, because you certainly wouldn't want to get there and just slack off because you'd made it, you know. But yeah. Don't forget to give yourself credit for all the things you did accomplish on your way to that goal. It's tremendous. It's tremendous.
Yeah.
But so what are your goals now?
Well, I have another horse coming up, Tattoo, and Jay made the big jump this year to the Grand Prix level, and he's done quite well. So next year is the World Equestrian Games, which is in Tryon in North Carolina.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so I'd like to aim for that with Tattoo. And I have a goal, and I hope to accomplish it in my lifetime. Is I'd like to be top 10 in the world. I'd like to be ranked in the top 10 in the world. So I still have that I'm fighting for and jumping my hurdles for. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to be an inspiration for other riders and Canada as well, because we haven't had many top 10 riders in the world. So that is my next goal. Is my short term is the next year is the World Equestrian Games, and then beyond that, a top 10 position in the world.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. Well, and I hate to burst your bubble, but I think you already are an inspiration for quite a few riders out there. So, but the top 10 would certainly bump that up a notch.
Right. Right.
That's fantastic. Good. So I know you mentioned fitness in our discussion about the Olympic Village, and you said you made mention of yoga. Is that something that you do quite a bit to work on your fitness, or what sort of program do you have? Because I think it's important, and I have this lecture, rant, discussion, whatever we want to call it, with riders all the time about, you know, we're expecting our horses to be athletes, and we need to be that as well. So what do you have in your program there? What does it take for a dressage rider on the fitness side of things to make it to the Olympics, to make it to that level?
Well, you know, I agree with you. I mean, you have to be very fit to ride dressage and equestrian sport. So for me, I'm 46 years old this year. I turned 46, and I need to stay supple is a big thing in this decade for me. Mm-hmm. And so I do yoga. I do yoga every day, and I plan it in the morning. I do like 20 minutes, 30 minutes of different stretches and then some strengthening exercises through yoga. I actually have been thinking about hiring a personal trainer, because I'm also finding that although I ride a lot of horses, there's a cardiovascular component, and at this decade, I need to be fit and cardiovascularly so strong that I never fatigue on the horse. And it's interesting, as I get older, I feel that takes more effort and more work. So I do think I'd like to do a bit more cross-training with maybe some cycling or some running or something, because I'm starting to feel that. I think it's really important to listen to your body and know your body. And when I sort of go, I am struggling with this and I am a bit tired at this 45-minute point. And in order to be the best for your horse, you need to not be tired, and you need to be able to control each muscle and with accuracy. And if you're a bit fatigued or tired, you're going to get sloppy in your position and your aids, and that's going to affect your horse. So I am a huge component in fitness and in rider position and the correct position on the horse and your effectiveness of the aids, being able to distinguish between, okay, I'm going to hold my core tight, but I can keep my wrist relaxed. I'm going to close my lower leg, but my thighs aren't on. Like, I'm a big component in all of that, and that takes a tremendous amount of awareness.
Yes.
And coordination. So I'm on your page with that. I think that to be a great rider and even a good rider, you can only expect from your horse what you put into yourself. And that's something everyone should be aware of.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Work toward.
For sure. I love the way you said, listen to your body, and if at a certain point you feel like you're tired, you're fatiguing, you're running out, now you need to work a little more. Because I find a lot of times with riders, they say, oh, that's hard, so that's my maximum. Well, that's actually the point. They need to kind of figure out other ways to blow through so that they can be more for their horse, so they can, just like we do with our horses, right? So they can extend their maximum.
Yeah, that's right. Yoga has taught me a lot. So sometimes you have to hold these balancing poses. Mm-hmm. And the first time you do it, you're like, whoa, I'm wobbly, I'm here. And then I think, okay, well, I ask a horse to dressage, for instance, mm-hmm. and they have to hold the weight on their diagonal pair in the air however many seconds longer before hitting the ground. And it's a little bit of strength and coordination. And if I'm expecting that of my horse, then I need to be able to do that myself.
Right.
So you need to, if you're like, well, I am fatiguing, well then think about something, you can do off the horse to help you get stronger and fitter in a direction that you need to be.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so essential as a rider. And I often think, and I share this with riders all the time too, that I think probably 80% of a rider's problems can be solved off the horse through things like suppleness, awareness, tone, things like that you don't have to be on the horse. Like you said, you're doing yoga, and I love that you said you're doing it for, 20, 30 minutes a day. That's something too. I tell riders, they seem to get frustrated because they see this daunting mountain called fitness that they think they have to tackle in this big way. And really, it's just about small changes. I mean, 20, 30 minutes, geez, as much coffee as I drink, the coffee pot percolates for more than 30 minutes in a day.
Yes, I know. And it's a matter of finding the time that you are going to do that. Like if you're a morning person, do it in the morning. If yes. you're a night person, do it before you go to bed. Like you have to. And here again, I go into the grit. Like you can't be an excuse. You have to do it. Like it's this TV show, or I've already done this today, or I'm tired.
Right.
I do it when I'm coughing. I do it when I'm a little sick. You do it anyway.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that you should make yourself sick from something, but it's that kind of determination where, you can't make excuses. It's not going to happen unless you put the work in yourself.
Absolutely. It's not going to just fall out of the sky, right? There is no magic wand that's going to get a rider ready and capable of that. So, yeah, and I agree with you as far as the yoga. That's something I try to do as often as possible, 4 or 5 days a week. And I know within 2 or 3 days of not doing it, I know I've not done it. I can feel the difference in my riding.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not riding at the Olympic level, so.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, as we age, we do get stiffer, and even I have my young riders that are stiff.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, what was interesting? The Olympics, we had she was. I'm trying to think of her title. She was head of sports science, but she would stretch you, so she'd help you by stretching your body, and the jumpers flew in after us. And the youngest girl on the jumper team, she was for Canada. She was the reserve rider. She was the stiffest among all of us.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and she was funny. She was I know, I'm so stiff. I got to work on it. But at any age, you have to, and also that prevents injury as well if you're supple. And so, and I think for riding, we're in this constant motion for so long that it's so important that we counterbalance that with cross training, with stretching, to stay healthy throughout our careers.
For sure. 100%. Absolutely. All right. Well, what do you think? Are you keen to take a couple questions from our audience?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. So Suzanne has a great one. Suzanne put this one in fairly early on in the conversation, so I hope that she's still listening. She asks, what were some of your biggest aha moments as a dressage rider, your big breakthroughs?
Oh.
These guys ask some really good questions, too. So
I know.
They ask way better questions than I do. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, I should leave the interviewing up to the audience because they do so much better.
That's a great question. I think, it's interesting. I think that the dressage is such a sport that takes time. And I think that my aha moments have been in the minute I let go of a time, like something has to be happening in X amount of time. I have to get this horse to this level at this time, or I only have this amount of time in order to compete here. That has always been negative for me. And whenever I let go of that and just focus on my day-to-day and the big picture, I always think of allowing things to happen. Mm-hmm. That's kind of been an aha moment. And I wouldn't say it's a direct this day aha moment, but that's been something that keeps coming back to me as a lesson of learning is not rushing anything in the sport. And the minute you stop rushing, things start happening faster. So I think that's something that's been really, really big for me. And then besides that, I'm just thinking of like my body position as a rider. Like there's been so many moments when I've discovered I can keep my leg more still and I feel a moment on the horse, or I can keep my hands in the right position in one hand, or the independence of my hands. And that's been another moment where I'm like, oh, I feel that. I think that, I know I have one. I have a really good one actually, because I'm thinking of all my years. Another really, I think one of my biggest aha moments was understanding how horses communicate. And horses, for me, communicate much more than just on a physical level, on a touch level. They communicate through your energy and your thoughts. Yeah. And I had, Anton taught me this years ago at, it was the World Championships in Kentucky. And we had a training camp before the games, and he was wild. Anton's a very hot horse. And he decided that I couldn't turn him out because the field was so enormous. I was afraid he would run and hurt himself. So that was not okay. Like hand walking was not enough for him and riding. And so in the afternoon, I decided to lunge him just to get some of his energy out. And he was so nuts on the lunge line that I started whispering, like, canter, really quiet. And then he would like bolt off. And through that session, I stopped whispering and started thinking. I would think canter, and boom, he would canter.
Yeah.
And then I thought, trot, and boom, he would trot. And I was kind of testing my body language. Am I doing something here on the ground? And no, I said, no, I'm not. And then I kind of got freaked out for a moment because I thought, he's just done this 4 times in a row. Every time I think something, he does it. And then I went, canter, no trot, no canter, no trot, no canter in my head.
Uh-huh.
And he did that. He went, canter, trot, canter, trot, canter.
Oh, nice.
He went back and forth. And I realized that they are connected to you. And that moment led me on to another moment when I was training one of my clients' horses. And I'm riding around, and I'm thinking, this horse is so strong. I can't get this horse light. It's so strong. And I was round and around the arena thinking this. And then all of a sudden, I went, Linda, stop thinking about what you don't want and start thinking about what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and I just imagined the feeling. I wanted him light off my feet and just softly floating to the trot. In 2 seconds, and I am not exaggerating, the horse did that. He went from pulling on me to being light as a feather.
Nice.
And I think that's probably my biggest aha moment, is understanding that level of communication that we actually do have with them. Yes. Beyond our physical.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's interesting. It's so much like the herd dynamic itself, right? I mean, they've evolved, they've developed this sensitivity to what the energies and kind of the thoughts that each other have been putting off in the herd. So it makes perfect sense that when you're part of that herd, they're going to read those as well.
Yeah, it's true. And I wasn't aware of that until later on, but it's amazing, and how strong it is when you become aware of that.
Yes. Well, and that's just proof that we never stop learning in this game.
Never stop learning. My coach is 70 years old. She's been to 8 Olympics, and she says that to me. Every day I learn something new.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Awesome. Okay, so Bridget has a question in here for us, and Bridget wants to know, you spoke about people having to stay in the Olympic Village. Can you share what restrictions may have been placed on you for spending time with your horse for training and downtime?
Actually, there were no restrictions there. So the only restriction would be the bus schedule. Gotcha. So the bus would go back and forth from the venue to the village at certain times and then stop at a certain time of day. So I believe depending on the day, the last bus might be 4 o'clock or 4:30. So that might be you'd only be allowed to stay at the venue for that time. But if you were able to, the grooms had accommodation right at the venue. And I decided one night to actually sleep there. I wanted to sleep with Anton, and it was the day before my Grand Prix. I didn't want to think about buses and all of that. So there was opportunity for me to actually stay there as well. So it was easy. That part was easy. And the venue, they call it, if you stay within the Olympic bubble, everything was very easy. So the venue, the site was the Olympic bubble, the bus was the Olympic bubble, and then, of course, the village was the Olympic bubble. So going from anything within the bubble was very easy. You just had to stick to the bus schedule.
Okay. Perfect. Let's see. Jenna wants to know, do you have any tips or tricks to help a nervous horse in the show ring, especially a horse with an anxious walk that always wants to go to a trot instead?
Well, I think the first thing I would do with a horse that is nervous in the show ring is see if you can find out what's making them nervous. Is it the venue, the environment? What is it exactly that's making them nervous? My second question would be, does the horse do this at home? Does he go jogging in the walk at home, or is this only in the ring? If the answer to that it's only in the ring, then I would say the solution would be trying to figure out what it is that's triggering him to be nervous at the show, and then finding solutions to help calm him. For instance, if you have a horse that's nervous of tents, like the judges' booths are sometimes have the tents and the flapping of the tents, is there a way you can have a tent at home and gently over time get them used to that. If the answer is that the horse does it at home as well, but just it is more exaggerated in the ring, then there's a lot of great walk exercises that I do. Like I would halt in the walk and then go 2 steps forward and then halt again, and then go 3 steps forward and then halt again. And then the horse is going to start to think they're going to stop. So then I would say, okay, now I want to walk a little faster, and now I want to walk a little slower, or now I want to walk in an 8-meter circle, or now I want to leg yield in the walk, or now I want to do a shoulder in the walk. Mm-hmm. So the horse starts to listen to your aid within the walk. I mean, another common problem can be after an extended walk or a free walk, and you shorten your reins. The horse might jog as you're shortening your reins. And what I often do with that is if I just bring my upper body back like half an inch, that's my signal the horse has got to slow down for me. So even with long reins, I'll just bring my body back and then ask them to halt before I shorten my reins, and then shorten my reins. So there's a lot of different exercises that you can do to help them just think walk. But again, with her, if it's just happening in the show ring, it might just be because of nerves versus an issue with the walk, and that would be the solution. Wouldn't be fixing the walk, it would be figuring out how to get them more relaxed at the horse show.
Yeah, more fixing the philosophy of the environment.
Yeah.
Awesome I love that. Let's see, 2 more questions here before we swap over. Suzanne asks, and I think this is great, what advice do you have for a rider making the switch from being a hunter rider to a dressage rider? Are there any technical or mindset advice?
I would say there's a huge technical component between hunter and dressage. A lot of it would have to do with the rider's seat and position. When hunter, you do most of your work in a 2-point or a very light seat. And in dressage, we sit a lot deeper, and the leg position is slightly different, longer stirrup. So I would actually spend a lot of time on the lunge line or on a horse where you can ride without stirrups to help develop your position. Another option is, I don't know if you have one in your area, but horse simulators. We have a horse simulator close to us, and you can get on these horses and work on a different position. So I mean, for hunter to dressage, it's a different saddle and a different feeling altogether. So it's really a huge leap to go from one to the other. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a wonderful transition. As far as a mindset, I think the biggest difference between dressage and hunter is the amount that we spend training. I don't know a lot about hunter, but what I understand is there's not as much intensity in the actual work period. So for us, we'll ride our horses 30 minutes or sometimes 40 minutes, but it's quite a bit more intensive during that time. So, for instance, we'll canter for longer segments or canter trot for longer segments. And I think there's a little bit to get used to with that in the transition. The easy part of the transition is the perfection of it, because I know as hunter, the horses have to be in the perfect stride and in the perfect jump, and we are the same in our transitions and in the actual shape and frame of dressage. So I think that part is going to be an easy switch over.
Yeah. Awesome. And I know Suzanne. Suzanne is a friend of mine and a student of mine. So I know her biggest kind of challenge, or at least what I felt was, as a coach for her, was the difference in the contact, right? Going from kind of the longer rein hunter contact to more of a connected contact. That was a bit of a challenge there. And her horse struggled a bit with it to begin with, and then sort of found that she really loved it. She found a better balance and things like that. It was great.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that the rider's seat has so much to do with that connection as well. But you're right. I mean, as a horse is going from a balance of forward and long to more sitting on the haunches and then in an arc in their neck. So, yeah, contact is a big difference.
Yeah. And it's not that either are bad. It's the horse needs to learn to be adjustable that way. And when you go around too much in one, it can be challenging for them to learn another.
That's right.
So awesome, good. And the last question we're going to take from the audience here comes from France. France says, I'm a big fan of, I'm going to kind of paraphrase the question, positive reinforcement, sugar, etc., when the horse shows an effort to give you the right answer. Can you talk about that? How do you feel about that?
I love Fran. I am the same. I love that she's just said that because, I said in the beginning why we do this. We love our horses and they're so generous. And I am constantly feeding them. I have a very embarrassing story. I have a horse owned by Barbara Sinclair and have been showing him small tour pre-St. George I went. And he won some CDIs in the spring. And I'm in the prize giving and they're playing the national anthem. And he's turning his head and begging from me. And as I'm sitting on him in the prize giving. And I'm like, Carlucci, not right now, not right now. I'm like, yes, I feed my horse from the tack a lot. So I am 100% in agreement with her. All they want is a treat. And I actually really read them by their treat. So if I'm teaching them something and it's somewhat intense, like this is a good example. I have a horse right now, my U25 rider, and her horse is learning the 1 tempi.
Okay.
And it can be stressful for them when they're learning. Like, he doesn't understand, like, I've got to switch every single stride, and where do I put my legs? And so if he does a couple that are correct, I make a huge fuss. I stop and I reward him and I give him a treat. So not only does it tell him that he's done a good job, but if he's at a point where he doesn't take the treat or he takes the treat quite aggressively, I know we're near the end of his learning capacity for the day.
Gotcha.
So it teaches me a lot of where the horses are in their mindset. If they're at a point where they won't take the treat, it's not positive learning anymore, or they're grabbing at the treat, it's not positive learning. So it gives me a good read of where they are mentally. So I'm loving Fran, and I do it all the time, and I hope to train my horse not to beg during the prize giving, but he is.
Well, if they're going to misbehave at the prize giving, that's the best misbehavior I've seen.
That's true. Yes.
So, I mean, it could be a lot worse.
Yes. So if you ever see me at prize giving and the horse is like looking at my foot, well, you know why.
Gotcha. Oh, I love it. I'm going to be looking for that now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, all right. So we're going to do some wrap-up questions. I have kind of some general rapid-fire wrap-up questions that I like to throw at everybody as we go here. So let's see. If there was one specific thing that you could recommend for riders to focus on as a primary means of improving their horsemanship, what would that be?
I would say listen to their horses. The horses talk to us in so many ways, and to learn their horse, get to know their horse on such an intimate level, and listen to them, and listen to the small little things like how they feel every morning, what is normal for them and not normal, in a very subtle way. I mean, they speak to us very subtly. Like I know the difference with Anton in the way I mount him from one day to the next. Does he walk right up to the mounting block, or does he take his time going to the mounting block? And that means something. So I would say that if you can take your time to learn those subtleties of each horse is its own individual. There's not one like the other. Right. It will bring you so much in your horsemanship, in how to train them and how to be with them, and how to care for them the best you can.
Yep, absolutely. I love that. I got a chance to audit not too long ago a clinic with Charles DeCunfee, and he was coaching a rider, and I don't even recall what was being said or what was being done in the moment, But Charles's comment was, well, that's just the person that horse is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And accepting them for who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Fantastic. Okay. If you could ride with anyone, past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh. Well, I'm gonna talk about two people. So one, I'm going to give a huge shout out to my personal coach, who is Crystal Boylan, who I have a huge respect and admiration for, because I feel so fortunate to be able to ride with her. I've ridden with her almost 25 years, and every day I learn something. It's not, sometimes when you've been with one coach for a period of time, you don't learn anymore, and that's not the case with her. And I think about her and her career and what she's accomplished, and it's incredible. So I want to give a huge shout out to her. I think another person I would be very interested in riding with is Isabelle Vert. She's produced horse after horse after horse, and I'm so interested in her system of how she gets the horses over their backs. And she has this unique, how she can, I remember watching her, I can do it now, and it took me a while to learn it and understand it, but I remember watching her teach a horse dressage through a rising trot on a really long rein, and the horse was very, super supple. So she seems to get the horses in such a place in their body where they're so loose and supple, and the contact is so beautiful and so classic. So I think she's someone else that, if I ever had the opportunity to ride with, that would be very interesting for me.
Nice. Okay, I usually use the word horsemanship in this question, but I'm going to change it to dressage because I think that's rather fitting for our episode today. What is your personal definition of dressage?
I would say harmony and a dance between equine and human. A harmonic dance between equine and human is the way I would see the beauty of dressage and what dressage is.
I love it. That's fantastic. Okay, two more. One, how can folks find you? Our listeners, how can they find you? Social media, website, clinics?
Yes. The best way is website. So it's belindatrussell.international.com. So if you just go online, I have a really wonderful social media manager who is able to filter all questions through me. And also Facebook is the best. I'm trying to get a bit better on Instagram, and I am a complete technology dinosaur when it comes to social media. So I'm working on it. Anyway, the best is probably website and Facebook.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And now the last question. Everybody that I do these audios with, and every time I do a video, we ask a question of the day. And this is a question that we put out there to everyone out there listening that they get to answer for us. And anytime I have a guest on, the guest gets to ask the question of the day. So you've been put in the hot seat. What is, and it can be anything, what is our question of the day today?
A question that we ask the listeners?
Absolutely.
Okay. My question would be, what inspires you daily with your horse?
Oh, I kind of get jealous because all of our guests ask the best questions. Mine come out so corny and lame, and the guests ask the best questions. I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Belinda, for taking the time here to join me for this, what has become just shy of a 2-hour audio broadcast. I told you at the beginning, these have gone way longer than I ever expected them to, but they've been so much fun.
It's wonderful. There's so much to talk about. It's great.
Exactly. I think we could go way farther, and we could talk for way longer. One of these days I'm going to figure out how to get a whole group of us together on a call. I think that would be so much fun.
Oh, that would be great.
Like the old-fashioned party line.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And thank you for hosting it, because I think it's wonderful for you to have your guests and that they can all share their insight to horses, and other people can hear them and take a little bit from them, and hopefully that helps them with their own horse. So thanks for hosting it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we're going to wrap this up. Hang on for me here for a couple more minutes, Belinda. And gang, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to episode 6 of our Talking About Horses audio broadcast. Don't forget, this is going to be available for full listen immediately following the broadcast. It's also going to be available soon on YouTube, and within a day or so, you'll be able to download it from iTunes for listen, where you can also catch up on all of our past episodes as well. This week, chatting with my friend Belinda Trussell from Canada. Next week, be sure to tune in August 17th at 8 p.m. We're going to have a live broadcast with Tania Creamer, president of the Heart of Phoenix Equine Rescue. Thank you so much, gang, for tuning in. Catch us again next time.